Well, welcome everyone. I am very glad you came. We're going to talk today about the death of an old friend called the elevator pitch. And boy, it's about time. How many of you, put it in the chat, have ever tried to create an elevator pitch? Just Y or N, yes or no? You've heard about those? And wow, Jim, you have not tried to do it before. Interesting. Okay. So the idea of having a compact message by which to introduce ourselves is a good idea, but it's not easy. How many of you have actually found that your use of an elevator pitch was really effective in getting new contacts and getting new business? Another Y or N question in the chat. Instant no's. That's what I've expected. Well, we have something better than an elevator pitch for you today. Um, when it comes to elevator pitches, I only have two problems with it. Number one, nobody wants to talk in an elevator. And number two, nobody wants to be pitched. Other than that, it's a fine idea. I don't like the term because it creates a really bad picture and nobody wants to do it. And in fact, the way the elevator pitch is structured is too long, too much information in an uncomfortable setting. That's not really what we want to do. So the alternative is something I call a memory dart. And this was a term that showed up in my first book in 2018, Clarity Wins. It's a shorthand shortcut. It's like your business card in words. And the idea is within a few seconds, with a more interesting, more vivid message, you get to plant something in somebody's memory because you want to be remembered for what you do. And because if somebody remembers you accurately, they can refer you. And we all know that referrals are the best source of business. So the best way we can promote our business is by planting the ideas, the pictures in people's minds about who we are and what we do. That's a memory dart. Think of the difference between an elevator pitch and a memory dart this way. In an elevator pitch, you're telling somebody who you are and what you're all about, and you're actually trying to sell them on a next step. I don't know about you, but when I'm in an elevator, I don't want people telling or selling me anything. I don't want that when I first meet somebody. A memory dart is about compelling. I want to put some form of intriguing message in front of you that makes you interested. I'm not just dumping info on you. I'm gaining interest. It's compelling. Here's the goal of a memory dart. The person you're talking to is either thinking or saying, tell me more. Whatever you started with, I liked it. I want to know more, not tell me less. A memory dart is about touching the imagination and awaking interest. It's not just dumping information. Now, we've all met certain people that are not effective at this, like Chad Confusion Cloud. So you meet Chad and he says, well, I'm an engineering enablement specialist providing end-to-end business development solutions. What does Chad do? Nobody knows. Chad has forgotten how to speak human. He doesn't know how to have a clear message. And therefore, as soon as this confusion cloud hits you, you tune out because I don't know what any of that means. He knows what he means. I don't know what he means. And then we've also met at these networking meetings Mr. Bruce Blowhard. And Bruce is all about himself. and how wonderful he is and all about what he does to provide measurable results for stakeholders and how you really want to meet with him because he's such a genius. And I actually want to get away from Bruce. He does not intrigue me. He does not interest me. He repels me. Don't need him. Not a good way to introduce yourself. And then Claire Commodity doesn't really give you much to go on. She just says, I'm in HR. I'm in sales. Well, give me something. Claire, give me something. That's boring. That's very non-specific. That's very unmemorable. And I'm certainly not able to refer you if all I know about you is that you fit in a big bucket that's called HR. That doesn't tell me a thing about your value. So these are ways, unfortunately, very common ways that people introduce themselves, and it doesn't work. It's just not effective. So instead of boring dead-end intros, we want to give people a memory dart that attracts them, not like those ones we just had, which were memory farts. Don't want those. Those repel us. Memory farts are things that drive people away. Memory darts have them saying, tell me more. Now, I want to tell you about a relative of mine. This is my Uncle William. He was my mom's oldest uncle, and a couple of my uncles lived in the Washington, D.C. area and worked there for many, many decades. One of them, my Uncle Town, had a very interesting role in marketing in National Geographic. And as I grew up and became a little bit of a marketer, he and I, really gelled. I never knew what Uncle William did. I didn't know where he worked. I didn't know what company, agency, or three-letter government thing he did. But I do remember that somebody said to him once to describe his role in life, he said, Bill, you're just another gray-suited drone in DC. What an awful description. You have no differentiation, no identity. You are a gray-suited drone. You could be swapped out with another drone. Now, this is a prime example of a negative memory dart. This is the thing I remember about my uncle. He was a gray-suited drone. It's stuck in me. You don't want people to have memory darts that are negative or that just forget who you are. We want to effectively tell people who we are. What we're trying to avoid is what I call the just another syndrome. You're just another consultant. You're just another salesperson. You're just another pharma trainer. You're just another. And the fact is that the way the human brain works, everybody is just another until they prove otherwise. You know those nature shows where you have all the penguins on the ice floe and they all look the same. They all sound the same. There's no difference. And unfortunately, we are just another penguin until we paint a different picture in people's minds. You are an awesome human being. You have great capabilities, you have great skill and values, but nobody knows until you skillfully plant that in their minds. What this is personal branding. Some people don't like the term personal branding. I think it's fine, but especially when you just define it as not a matter of puffing yourself up or speaking a bunch of nonsense. It's simply putting you into words, accurately describing yourself. That's personal branding. It's just like the way a company brands. Company brand is putting the company into words. So our big challenge as individuals and as companies and as departments and brands, all of us, our big challenge is to somehow rise above the noise. We all have very serious competition, and the competition is everything else that is sucking away people's time and attention. Let's do a little quiz. use your chat box. How many emails per day do you average, roughly? Just no need to make a specific count. Give me an idea how many emails are coming at you each day. Stephanie, too many. Yeah, that's right. Average professional, 60 to 150 emails hitting us every day. That is sucking away our attention. We're competing with that. If I'm trying to communicate with you, I'm competing with that. If my email is trying to compete, I've got a lot of people to compete against. Now, this number is going to surprise you. On every format, radio, screen, computer, billboards, TV, everything, how many ads per day do you think assault your eyes and ears? Give it a guess. I guarantee you it's, well, no, I can't guarantee it's too low because Kim just guessed 1 million and she's not correct. That's too many, Kim. The estimation is between 4 and 10,000 ads per day are impinging on us. And if I want to communicate with you, I'm competing with all those ads, and they're mainly professional. Average American screen time per day, 7 to 10 hours. That's a very compelling competitor that I'm up against and you're up against. How many times do you think you pick up your mobile device a day? 10, 20, 30, 40? No, probably between 100 and 350. This is one of our biggest competitions in all of professional communication. This. And it's quite compelling. Anybody that's a presenter knows that when you're presenting, you are at war with people's mobile devices. And if you don't win the battle for attention in the first few minutes, you've lost your audience. Finally, how many interruptions does the average American office worker experience per hour? Turns out that's 10 to 20. So getting to focus, getting to actually pay attention is an incredible challenge. It's been estimated that the human brain is processing 11 million bits of information per second from all 5 senses. And the vast majority of that is shunted into the background, and we can only focus on one thing. And the brain's miraculous reticular activating system, the RAS, focuses on what's most important, the what's in it for me right now. That exchange is a 60-bit information exchange. If I'm talking to you, we are focused on each other, that's 60 bits. That means that I am at war with 11 million bits, and I'm trying to win the 60-bit battle. And so are you, in every form of communication, including networking. That's pretty hefty competition right there. Well, I've arrived at the conclusion that the biggest killer of communication is TMI, too much information. We constantly want to say too much. We constantly want to include too much. We constantly make things too long, including our introductions. Less is more in this world of information density. The only thing that's going to win attention is less and more vivid. You've run into Felicia Fogg, probably on LinkedIn or in resumes, and Felicia will tell you everything she's ever done. Well, look at all that stuff. How do you know what her value is? How do you know what her strength is? How do you know what she brings to the table? She's cast such a wide net that it's impossible to categorize Felicia in our minds because she does it all. And that's exactly not the way we stand out and become memorable. How we communicate is how we succeed. You've put an awful lot of time and effort into your business. But really, it comes down to those few moments when you're trying to communicate clearly with someone. That's what leads to success. And so this brings us to this incredible need we have to get right to the point. Human beings have an unbelievable need to get to the point because there's too much else out there. Too many other interruptions, too much competition, too much stuff. And so I wrote an entire book about this called The Point, because there are specific methods and formulas and tactics we can use to get to the point. And one of the first ways we need to do that is when we are introducing ourselves to people. The no longer alive elevator pitch, the memory dart. Who needs to get to the point? Well, kind of turns out that it's everybody. Anybody that needs to communicate needs to be good at getting to the point. And anybody that's going to talk to human beings and introduce themselves needs to learn how to use memory darts to their advantage. This is something we all can benefit from. So, how do we do that? How do we move from too much information? How do we move from telling and selling to making vivid, memorable little word packages? Well, it's really kind of simple. At least the structure or the format is very simple. Your introductory memory dart is simply three things: your name, where you fit in the world. Okay, the human brain wants to know, where do you fit? Are you with this kind of company, that kind of company? Do you do this kind of role? Are you a teacher? Are you a plumber? Are you a lawyer? We will categorize. We have to categorize people. So we need to let people know right away what our category is. Then something compelling. So this is how that goes. Hi, I'm Lucy Santos. I work with at-risk teenagers in a group home setting. I see where you fit. Very specific. Creates a picture for me. And they call me the calmer of chaos. No elevator pitch. Just something intriguing. Something to touch your imagination. Something that makes you do what you've got to do. Tell me more about that, Lucy. I want to know about the calmer of chaos. My wife has a single word describer. I have branded her the combobulator. I love the word and always have loved the word discombobulation. And at one point a few years ago, I had this random thought in my head: if there's such a word as discombobulation, there must be a word called combobulation. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there is one. And it means somebody who puts order onto things, someone who makes everything work right. And that is exactly what my wife is. She is the combobulator. And if she comes and introduces herself that way and says, my husband calls me the combobulator, you are compelled to ask, what do you mean by that? And now you're inviting a deeper interaction. That's it. Your name, where you fit, and some little phrase that's going to open the door. Now, when I do this exercise with individuals or teams, and I do this with groups, I do this with people, there are three things that we start with for an introductory set of memory darts. One is the keywords. The next is key stories. There are certain stories that stick in people's minds. And then what we arrive at as the quickie summaries, the things that you're going to use as that dart to get people interested. Every single professional should have in their pocket a knowledge of their keywords, those things that are really what they're all about, several key stories, and one or two quickie summaries. so that you can meet someone and in 30 seconds be off and running and have their full focus, have the 60 bits. So the first thing we do is we hashtag ourselves. Hashtags are just keywords that describe things. And one of the things I do initially with people is we sit down and we walk through, either in groups and small groups or individually with me. We find the keywords that, and I try to aim for three, that most exactly describe your strengths. These are the things that people say about you. When someone talks about Jared, they say, well, he is this. When someone talks about Dawn, well, Dawn does this. And the people that know you and have worked with you are actually your best source of your keywords. And if you ask people, who am I? What am I best at? What's great? Those are your hashtags. You want to arrive at the three things that make you, most professionally valuable, and that differentiate you. Okay? So I'm going to ask my friend Jason Zeman, who is on the call, to give us how it worked for him. Now, Jason is someone that has worked in pharma training for many years. And when I still lived in the wastelands of New Jersey 10 years ago, I met with Jason. I would just meet with various people for lunch and for meetings and talking through things. And Jason and I met in an Irish pub, and I did what I always do is just ask a bunch of questions. And as Jason was talking, it sort of became clear to me what his magic was. What was the thing that made him really, really cool? And Jason has had to jump up. He's got to jump back and forth between this call and another call. So I think he's not quite back yet. So when Jason comes back, we're going to have him tell you his story about the key words. And there's one particular word that is the most key in his career. Okay. So we'll come back to Jason as soon as we've got him back on the line. Here's something that's a really important thing to remember. The human mind is a story processor, not a logic processor. What we remember most is stories, not logical outlines, not a bunch of slides, not white papers. Stories stick. Facts and just bare information doesn't help us. And so we want to wrap who we are and what we offer into a narrative format. And so one of the things that I advocate for, besides your keywords, is to have an origin or evolution story. This is your unique story, and here's a format you can use to create yours. I started here. Could be end of high school, could be in college, could be your first career, could be the first time you're involved in radio. You choose whatever it is for your starting point. Okay. So my story is I started here. Then this changed my course. We all have that. All of our stories are messy. Somebody or something makes stuff happen and changes our course. It's what makes your story fascinating, is you often have one or two or three twists like that. Now I've ended up here. This is why I'm at this point right now. And here's where I'm going. My goal is this. This is where I'm heading. This little compact outline is your unique story. And what you weave into this story is your strengths and the things that you do best for your clients, so that you become memorable and you embed who you are into a narrative. So I've asked Kim Catania, who's on our call, to give us her story. She is a professional now, runs her own agency doing training. But that's all I'll tell you because I've given Kim 3 minutes and only 3 minutes, and she knows how to be clear and concise. And she's going to tell you her story, how she evolved to what she did and how clarity has made an impact. So go ahead, Kim.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. So, like Steve said, my name's Kim Catania. I've been in the biopharma industry about 30 years, and about 12 years ago, I started Catania Communications. And I realized I wanted to do this because I have a real big passion for people and people development and coaching, having been a trainer, a first line leader, a second line leader, et cetera, throughout my career. When I was building my team out, what we struggled with coming up with was how do we make our message be different and how do we figure this out? So I leaned on my good friend Steve to figure out what to do. And he sat with us and did all the activities and a million more that you just saw him walk you through. And we sat there for a couple of days doing it. And we came up with our tagline of what makes us different and how to make us kind of stand out from the crowd. And the big thing about us is that everyone on my team is like me. We've got about 3 decades of experience and expertise. So you get us, but we get you because we've all walked the walk with you. So when we say that, everybody looks at us and goes, tell me more. So exactly what Steve said works beautifully. So we get to say that a lot. And then if you look underneath the name of my company, it has the 3 exact bullet points of what we do. We do innovative leadership development, creative learning solutions, and A-team facilitation. So there's no question with what we do, but there's all this tell me more in there. And partnering with Steve has been a blessing because since then, he's helped us build up the website. Anytime I write an article, anytime I do anything, we lean on each other, and I lean on him a lot to ensure that I'm hitting the point with as much clarity as possible. And I'm always trying to hone it down and get my memory dark because I can just chit chat away. One of the other things that we do really well is we listen. So when I ask my clients like what my hashtag would be, they say we listen. Kim always listens to what we need and what we have to say. So she comes up with the right solution for us. So having done that exercise as well, I'm telling you, it really works and it makes you really realize what you do and how it resonates with others.
Wow, you nailed that. Really good. One of the things when we were brainstorming Catania's positioning and messaging was we discussed how people would complain, clients would complain that they were getting the B team. When the proposal and the pitch was made, there was the A team, presenting it. But then when the project is implemented, they were getting the B team, and that pisses people off. And so, as Kim said, one of their distinguishing, differentiating traits is you get the A team, period, because that's all there is. There is no B team. Well, there's a lot of training providers out there, but there's not a lot that do that. And so it was a memory dart message and really, really good. Good job, Kim.
Thank
Uh,
you very much for the opportunity.
so a story, you want to have an evolution story. And the other thing, and we're not going to go into this because this is relatively a little bit easier, is you want to have some success stories. So whatever it is that you do well, you want to put that into a form of a little narrative and say, let me give you an example of, and then in 45 seconds, you explain how you brought this value to a client and what the result was. Those little nuggets of success stories nail down your identity and they stick in people's minds more than a bunch of bullet points. So when you've got an understanding of your strengths and your keywords, and when you've got your stories, what you want to arrive at as we move toward memory darts is a one-sentence summary. As a company, as a brand, as an individual, you want to be able to say in one sentence, here is what we're all about. Okay? So here's an easy format you can use. It's real simple. I do this very specific thing. Now, it's got to be very specific. It can't be, I do consulting. Well, okay, that means a million things. You tell me exactly how you consult and what problem you're addressing. So I do this specific thing for this specific type of customer or employer. if you're an employee. You want to map out and paint the picture for the person you're talking to exactly who you serve. Why? Because you want them to refer you when they run into those people, of course. You don't want to be just blending into the background. You want someone to walk around saying, oh, Steve works with that kind of company. And then using this unique superpower of mine. This is what I bring that makes me special. When you can put your business, your personal, professional business, either as an employee or as a provider, into a one-sentence format like this, you've got an incredibly powerful way of positioning yourself in your own mind, but then positioning yourself in the minds of others, in their memories. You get to put that dart. My friend Mark Schaefer, wonderful consultant in the marketing, he wrote a book on personal branding, and he has a variation of this that's even simpler. Fill in the blank. Only I do this. Only we do this. Only we bring the A team. Okay? So this is another good way to arrive at your differentiator. So I've gotten to know my friend Jared over the past year, and he works in radio, and we've been working a lot on his brand and his messaging. And Jared, I want you to talk about how you've arrived at punchy summary statements for your work.
Well, hello, everybody. This is an accent that you are hearing. I live in Nashville, and I tell people that this is not your typical Southern accent. This is a truly Southern accent. I come from Melbourne, and it's been an absolute joy to work with Steve over the past 12 months. I've been working in radio my whole career, and I started my business earlier this year. And I started to look at the problem about what I do through the lens of me, which I've learned through working with Steve that that's the wrong way of doing it. So I started off saying I do digital transformation, or I simplify digital transformation. And while that's correct and that's what I do, it wasn't really clear, and it wasn't leaving a lasting memory with people of what we do. So I've really very simplified it with Steve's help to get to I'm Jared, and I help radio stations grow audience. There's a few things in that, and that is that the fact that behind the scenes, radio stations are facing declining audience, or at least they've got this fear of declining audience. So I straight away go, we grow audience, which sparks their interest to go, let me have another conversation with you. Help me understand what that means. And so it gives me this opportunity to explain what I do and why I do it and how I can help them rather than it being about me. One of my products I've personified, and his name is Max. And so I revolutionized my PowerPoint presentation, which again, I look at it now and I go, that was crazy. It's the thing we all do. It's all about me, not about the people I'm presenting to. And so I personified Max in my presentation and filled Max up full with memory darts now, or this presentation up full with memory darts. And I wrote a few of them down. Max is powerful. Max helps you win. Max is simple to sell. Max is free to access. Max is loved, and Max is ready for you. So without even telling you what Max is, you now walk away with this sense that actually this is for me and I'm intrigued, I'm interested, tell me more, Jared. So that's what Steve's done with me. I am still a work in progress, but it's been really good to see the evolution about how I sell myself to other people. And the memory darts concept is great.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. And I lean on Jared and on Kim and on Jason actually for advice all the time because I need help with my positioning. Jason's back on the call, so I am going to swing back to Jason. And we started this little section talking about keywords. And I mentioned how Jason and I had a lunch, a very striking lunch one day. And by getting a hold of very specific one keyword in particular was very transformative for Jason in his career. So Jason, tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. You hear me okay?
Gotcha.
All right, great. Yeah, so Steve and I I had the privilege of meeting Steve early in my career, as I was a few years into the professional world. I was working in life sciences. I had spent at that time a number of years in customer-facing roles and had moved internally into a talent learning role. And I was doing a lot of stuff, but I couldn't quite name what it is that I was really good at more naturally. And Steve and I met. I actually vividly remember Steve meeting in an Irish pub in Parsippany, New Jersey. I think that was the beginning of our relationship, our friendship. And then later on, as I was really thinking about my own personal brand, and over a cup of coffee with a couple of peanut M&Ms, Steve articulated to me that you are an infrastructure guy. And I said, what does that mean? What's the double click into infrastructure? You help organizations build the foundations that they need in order to operate. And as I took a step back and I really reflected on that, it became really clear to me in terms of the work that I was doing and what type of work I really enjoyed doing. And so this concept of infrastructure really enabled two key decisions. It enabled decisions around career roles that I would take, and it enabled decisions around responsibilities that I would take within those roles. And if there was opportunities to build infrastructure in a role, I knew that was going to be the perfect place for me, because it will allow me to build the infrastructure necessary for a learning organization to operate, a talent organization to operate, a learning organization to operate in service of the business. And so over time, I took a more of a learning talent lens, but over time, I used that to tell the story to businesses in terms of how I can actually help enable the business through infrastructure and through building that infrastructure. And so I started to seek out, as my career evolved, I started to seek out opportunities that would allow me to build. Or as I was in those organizations, I sought additional responsibilities that allowed me to build. And so I might have been doing something and someone say, hey, we need someone to lead change management. Oh, I'll do that, because it allowed me to build something. And so I became, I think that really became a marquee of kind of what I offer, both organizations that I work with or work for. And as I continue in the marketplace today, it's what I can offer other organizations as they're looking to find talent. So it's really been a major, it's provided me such clarity in terms of what I want to do and where I want to go.
Thanks, Jason. And as you can see, there's a real power, as we've been mentioning, in storytelling. Could mention a whole bunch of things about strengths and all that, but now you've heard a story about how someone has gotten in touch with their strengths, and it's actually shaped everything that they do, which is awesome. Also, it's always great to make good friends too, and all you guys are my friends. So let's move on to this. Your goal with your memory darts, especially your introductory memory darts, is not to transmit information. It's not to give a sterile outline of who you are. It's to turn the light on in somebody's mind, to touch their imagination and shortcut to their understanding and their memory by using words that instantly land. That's what we want to do. And in my first book, I talk about owning your pigeonhole. Here's the deal. Everybody's going to pigeonhole you. No matter who. When you meet them, the brain cannot help but put you in a place, attach words to you, figure out an identity and attach it. Well, if you're going to be pigeonholed, you may as well own it and define that pigeonhole instead of somebody remembering you for the wrong thing, because then they would come to you for the wrong thing and refer you for the wrong thing. So you have to embrace and love your pigeonhole. Take your thing and say, this is my focus. This is my strong suit. This is what I do. Don't worry about trying to be a jack of all trades. Let's look at a few examples of people that do this effectively, besides the ones that are on this call. Here is my editor, both of my books, Josh Bernoff. And he's written a whole bunch of books, including one about how to build a better business book. And I said to him in the middle of our working together years ago, I said, Josh, you're like the Mercedes of business book editors. He liked Teslas better. So he's a Tesla business book editors. But we've used this metaphor, very simple metaphor, to attach in people's minds high-end, exclusive, really, really high quality. So you're stealing memory. You're using a dart to stick that message in and say, I'm the Tesla or I'm the Mercedes of that. My friend Mark Schaefer uses taglines effectively, a couple of them. One of them is 3 keywords: marketing, strategy, humanity, which is what his message has always been through all. He's written like 10 books, but that's underlies all of it. And then he also talks about rising above the noise in marketing. And he's written a fantastic book on personal branding called Known. And if you're interested in personal branding, that's a great book. But Mark walks the talk. So sometimes it's a tagline. Sometimes it's just a little provocative twist like this one. Larry Kim, be a unicorn in a sea of donkeys. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but come on, Larry, tell me more. What are you talking about here? Okay. Well, he's immediately differentiated because he's got an interesting and provocative something goes to the imagination there. Sometimes you just want to label yourself. One of the things I'm very proud of with all my 5 grown children is they all like to they love the outdoors. They love taking pictures. Some of them are fabulous photographers. My oldest one, Nate, who's on this call, took this picture among thousands of others that are great. And Nate takes a lot of pictures, and he's a great photographer. He loves the outdoors, but he's combined his love of photography and the outdoors and his passion for whiskey to create an identity online. And he has over 80,000 followers on Instagram who look at his stuff. And he's leveraged this to turn into brand ambassador roles, consulting marketing roles, and now he even has some venture capital behind him to create his own and launch his own brand. And so just by labeling himself and narrowing his focus, he gets written up in the news. He gets all kinds of applause. He's known worldwide. And even on Instagram, he's labeled himself these 2 words, Whiskey Nate and Whiskey with a View. And he's known all over the globe as a young whiskey influencer that takes great pictures and is a lot of fun to be with. Just by labeling himself, focusing, and sharing his gifts and abilities. So when you come up with a memory dart, you want to be bold, like Ann Handley. Empowering ridiculously good marketing, okay? Not just, oh, we do marketing. No. Some years ago, my friend Chris Brogan wrote on my timeline on Facebook, happy birthday to the King of Clarity. And I saw that and I went, wow, that's got some juice to it. Sounds pretty presumptuous, a little bit out there, but I embraced it because I thought that is fantastic branding. There can only be one king, and I'm all about clarity. And so I just embraced it and I've run with it. I am the King of Clarity. People know me by that name. I'm the King of Clarity. Now, does that mean I'm royalty? Well, maybe only in my own mind. But the fact is that I occupy real estate in people's mind with the word clarity. And that's what I wanted. What you don't want to do is go to the market and be generic. And in 15 years, I have asked, I don't know how many audiences, what is written on the side of a UPS truck? And nobody knows. Nobody. There are two phrases that you might find on the side of a UPS truck, and both are generic, forgettable memory farts. Okay? One of them is worldwide services, whatever that means, which means nothing, completely non-memorable. And the other is synchronizing the world of commerce, which for the average person on the street means absolutely nothing. Pure tech jargon. Fog. And so UPS has 130,000 vehicles all over the world that you see time after time, day after day, all with memory farts along with their exhaust systems, not taking advantage of having a great message. And now every time you see a UPS truck, what's going to happen? I'm going to occupy that space in your mind, and you're going to think about effective memory darts. So, for our last section, let's talk a little bit beyond the introductory memory dart, which is where you want to start. But let's say this really is all about great communication, and we need to learn to speak in darts. And it turns out that the human brain loves certain shortcuts. These are the things that turn the lights on in the brain. Little distilled statements, side-by-sides, comparison and contrast, because I'm already hooking onto something you already know. Specifics like statistics or quotes or examples. Stories, we've talked about stories. Human brain is hardwired for stories. Symbols, analogies, and the Tesla of business book editors, illustrations, word pictures, bad guys. You got to sell against the bad guys. Big pharma, bad guy. These things touch the imagination, the emotions, and quick summaries. So these little word packages are what you can use to actually take everything and put it in the form of memory darts. The human brain loves these shortcuts. Nobody wants to be subjected to a bunch of white papers. We want quickie shortcuts. One of the memory darts I'm best known for is not one I came up with. Everybody thinks I came up with this. I didn't. You can't read the label of the jar you're in. It's just a fabulous, wonderful summary statement of a truth that people simply get. It's impossible for us to be objective about ourselves. We need someone else to help us read the label. And for a consultant, this memory dart is the justification for hiring a consultant, because no company and no individual can read the label of their jar. We need outside help. And so I love this one. I'll have people come up to me. They say, you know what, years ago, you talked about you can't read the label of the jar you're in and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I didn't make that up. It's just true. And it's really the basis of my job in helping people get clarity. So you'll use memory darts in networking and introductions. You'll use memory darts when you write up little summaries or do marketing. You'll use memory darts in presentations. You'll use memory darts in meetings where you sum up all the results. You'll use memory darts on your resume, in any kind of classroom, teaching setting, sales pitch, even in career decisions. Memory darts are your friend. I went back just a few minutes ago and counted the number of memory darts that I have embedded in this presentation. It's like 48. Now, you're not going to remember all of them, but you're going to remember some of them. And I'm going to own, and my message is going to own real estate in your mind because you've seen these memory darts and heard these memory darts. If you're going to be a great communicator, if you're going to be a great memory dart maker, You have to understand that all information has to be stratified. You get to the essence first, the point, the thing, the statement. That buys you the right, once somebody's bought into the essence, that buys you the right to tell a little bit more outline or background or context. That buys you the right to get into the details. You can't just dump a bunch of stuff on people like a haystack. You've got to pull the needle out and say, let's start with the needle and then we'll work our way down. Darts everywhere. So, your most direct path to winning the war for attention is using words that work, and memory darts are the way to do it. What I do for my clients, multiple things. I do this consulting for people on their personal brand, usually about a 3-hour process to help someone come up with their identity, their strengths, their keywords, their memory darts. Same process for businesses, small businesses especially. It's really the same brand consulting way of doing things. The memory dart exercise can be condensed into a 20 to 25-minute icebreaker for any kind of conference to help get people talking with each other, creatively thinking through how they're going to network, and going through the rest of the conference with good memory darts to talk to others. And in conjunction with that, I can also do keynotes and workshops at conferences, and then I do live and professional workshops for clients that can be anywhere from half days to full days to more than one day, talking about all forms of communication clarity. So take out your phones as we come to our very last screen, because I've got some goodies for you. If you text to 833-299-5848, and you just put in the keyword L1024, LTEN24, that will send you to a place where you can get some articles I've linked on networking and branding, links to my books on Amazon, my LinkedIn profile and my newsletter, that personal branding worksheet that I referred to earlier. There's a copy of that there. And 4 of you will get signed copies of Clarity Wins that actually go through this process and put this in. And so this is how to get the free stuff. And we've got a few minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put on audio and ask away or go in the chat. Kim's been monitoring the chats. And Kim, is there anything that's come up that you think we should auto address? No? Okay. That means I've just done a perfect presentation, right? No. Any questions or ideas?
Is the memory dart the same as a clarity statement? We just got that question from Jim.
Yeah, that's a good question. Jim, I kind of look at statements. A statement can be a memory dart, but I try to arrive at a statement that is factual, clear, and specific. And then I often move from that statement to a metaphor, to a word picture, to a comparison. And so one of the ways in working with individuals and brands is we come up with clear, factual, precise statements first so that we know exactly what we're dealing with. Then we move into the color of a memory dart. So that's how I usually work it. That's a great question. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I really appreciate you all coming. Jared, Kim, and Jason, thanks for contributing. And you all can get these resources at that link. And then, as always, you know how to reach me. And I am happy to help you out in developing your memory darts. Thanks so much for coming, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Steve. Thank you.